Hey, everybody. Episode 30 of Enjoying Orange Slices with Jeff and the illustrious Lord Bagg, Ian. This week, we talk about some free agent. We talk about Alexander Ovechkin, some of the big contracts that are been handed out to the young defensemen in the league, and we talk about some goalies too. So I guess we talk about every position. It's a lot of fun. Number 30. We also have some information. Mr. Bagg, Lord Bagg, is going to be up in Vancouver from August 19th to 21st at a comedy club that I forgot the name of. Anyways, enjoy.
Hello, Jeff. Look at this. I'm still out of town, and you're still in Vegas, never to go anywhere.
Yeah, we try to do it outside there, but you're in a windy location today, so
I wanted to show people. I wanted to show people the outside of where I am. We had a snake here the other day. I don't know. We had a snake in the grass, and I almost put the place up for sale. That's how much of a pansy I am.
We don't have a lot of those around where we grew up, right? So
no,
I mean bears and moose and stuff like that. Not really a big deal, but.
My dad was telling me last night. Apparently, on Lanphier Hill, there's a bunch of gardener snakes. You can always find gardener snakes on Lanphier Hill. I'm like, no way in Terrace. He's like, yeah, and I'm like, isn't it? It's too cold for that. So apparently, there's snakes everywhere in the world. Write that down, Jeff. Speaking of snakes, how was your week? I don't know.
Yeah. My week was good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been a while since we did the last one on a Friday, so we're doing this one. Monday. We're back on Monday,
and we're late. So Brian's going to be upset with us too.
Well, that's okay. I was on the ice today, so that was good.
Yeah,
I did make a little excursion last week. You're not the only guy traveling.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did. We can talk about it a little bit. I'll tell you later.
Okay, tell me later. So how old were the kids that you were training today?
We had some younger ones, so probably 10 to 12 area. And then we got some junior kids that come out in the second hour, and they're always fun. They're a handful, but they all got lots of energy. So the little ones, they try hard. They don't listen very well, but they try hard. But the older ones, they don't listen at all. But we have a lot of fun with them. So
awesome.
The older ones were like 16 to 20, somewhere in there today. So and then we get adults once in a while too, which is a lot of fun. So you could be out there on any given day between 5 or 6 year olds.
I didn't know that you were also doing some personal sessions with adults. Well, that must be impressive.
Yeah, I did.
Some old guy try to get it together.
Well, I went down twice 2 weeks ago, so I mean, I don't know.
No way.
Talk about, yeah, I went down demoing a drill, and that was with the teenage kids, the 17, 18-year-olds. And they just looked at me, shook their head. They're like, "What's up with old man, the elderly gentleman? What's he doing?" Well, this week so far so good after day one, but yeah, I had a rough week 2 weeks ago trying to demo a drill when it was really hot here. The ice doesn't last very good, so that's one of my excuses. But I kept hitting ruts. Imagine that, ruts on the ice. So
I can't believe it. And anyway, you're also wearing a pair of free skates. That's your other problem. We gotta get you to buy a pair of skates. Correct. That's awesome. I love it. I love how the kids are still training during the summer. It used to be like when you're that age, you just go to one camp per summer and then head out and hang out with the family. But now they're just on the ice the whole time. I love it. It's good. Let's get back to the NHL, Jeff. It's very exciting times. Everybody's still signing. Any impressive signatures onto a piece of paper that you've seen teams get lately?
Well, as far as money wise, there's a bunch of impressive ones. We could, we can talk about Darnell Nurse up in Edmonton. He signed, I think, an 8-year extension for $9.25 a year. Zach Werenski in Columbus. Seth Jones, who signed in Chicago. So these are young guys in their early to mid 20s that are signing these big long-term contracts. So very impressive, and lots of money.
I'm curious about the Darnell Nurse thing. He's getting some big money, right? So a nice sneeze by it. You're very radio.
I should have turned the camera off, I guess. Sorry about that, but
yeah, I figured it out when you're
I almost went down that one. I don't know what happened. That's my first sneeze in 30 shows, I think. So at least
good for you. Might want to go get a swab up your nose.
Yeah, exactly.
I was on a plane last night and somebody kept blowing their nose and I was just trying to figure out who it was so I could blame on my positive test later on this week. But Darnell Nurse is interesting to me because Edmonton talks about how they've put all their money into 4 players and now they're into 5 players. So are they ever going to be able to put together a team that the young man can win a Stanley Cup with? I think they got troubles again.
Yeah, they got like 5 guys that take up well over half their cap. I mean, you got McDavid at 13 million. You got Draisaitl's up around 8. So there's 21. You throw Nurse in there, that gets you to 30. Hyman's 5.5, and then you got Nugent Hopkins who's around 5. So, even with our challenge math skills, and that is over 40 million for 5 players and a lot of cash. Then you had to sign a couple guys on the back end, and Tyson are in Barry and in Cody Ceci, and those guys are around $4 million apiece. So you got a lot of money tied up in just a few guys up in Edmonton. But I think you saw in some cases where teams were overpaying to get guys to come there, and in that case, it would be Zach Hyman, and maybe paid a little bit more for some of their D and Barry and Ceci than they wanted to. But that's good for those guys getting that money and an opportunity to play with Connor McDavid. So they're going to need to find some guys in the bottom of their lineup that aren't making that much. They're going to have a big impact in Edmonton next year. And I would think they're probably looking for some guys with a lot of pace to do that.
I find that they're trying to do that, but do you think they should have maybe let Darnell Nurse go and try to grab 2 players for almost $10 million a year? Like, do you think that helps them out in the long run more?
Yeah, that's a good question. I really like him. Nurse.
I'm not saying it in a way like he's not worth it, because he is. I'm saying, do they have the ability to do that?
Well, you are in a situation where, and they've freely admitted, some of these teams have a tough time getting free agents and people to resign, or free agents to come to them. I mean, they lost Adam Larson. They offered him the same money that Seattle did, and he went to Seattle. It might have just been time for a fresh start for him. So Nurse, he's comparable to Jones and Werenski. Werenski's in Columbus, and that's another story, what's going on there. But these guys are getting big bucks. I'm kind of surprised, to be honest with you, with a flat cap for at least looks like another year, or maybe it goes up $1 million, that they're tying these guys in. But they're hoping that Darnell Nurse, next year or the year after that and years to come, that $9 million is a bargain for him.
Right. So he's a bargain. Let's go to a not bargain. The Flyers gave Carter Hart a very big deal after a horrible season. I don't know what they're up to. I think you put him in a short-term contract and see how he grows. He's 22 years old. You can't throw him out with the bathwater, as they say, the dishwater, or whatever they say about it, But I don't think he did anything to earn a long-term or a raise last year. Do you?
Well, he's got a lot of attributes. He didn't have his best year last year, Carter Hart, but Philadelphia has kind of always been a little bit of a troubling spot for goaltenders.
I'm gonna stop you. Right, but I'm gonna stop you there. One of the things that we always talk about is guys get paid for what they did. You know what I mean? And this is one. He's getting paid for what he didn't. Yeah, there's a lot. He's got a lot of attributes, but he hasn't lived up to those things. And how many players, do that? They don't like Bobrovsky is one of those guys that, like, you're stuck with that on your cap. I don't think he would have been stolen away by anybody at this point in his career that they needed to go out and do what they did.
Well, you bring up a good point in what they did. So I guess you could look at Philly as saying, hey, we're going to pay him for what he's going to do. And they're hoping this young guy grows in to become, he's showing signs that he can be a terrific goaltender in the NHL, number one guy. To me, if you look at, they gave him the money, $4 million average a year over 3 years for a young goaltender, 22 years old. What's interesting to me is who they signed as a backup, which was Martin Jones, who got bought out of San Jose, and they gave him $2 million a year. So, Carter Hart is obviously the number one. They're banking on him doing that, but they paid a lot of money to a guy that's had a really rough ride the last couple of years, Martin Jones. So it's if Carter Hart gets off to a bumpy start, Martin Jones has got to come in. Philly, just on last year and year before for Martin Jones, which weren't very good. Philly could be in some trouble in goal. I'm sure both those guys are very motivated to make sure that that doesn't happen. But yeah,
I'm sure they are. But it reminds me right now of the movie Airplane, where the one pilot gets sick and the other one's sweating bullets because he had a bad situation.
Yeah. So Philly's always entering goal, and it's going to be just as interesting this year. But Carter Hart gets off to a good start, and then he plays the way they think he can. $4 million will be a bargain.
I thought Philadelphia was going to be a powerhouse the last 2 years, and they haven't. And I don't know. I don't know if they need a big, huge turnover, or if somebody that's coaching needs to be released. And I don't know, because I'm a big fan of Alain Vigneault. I don't know if they should release him. I don't know. This podcast, we're supposed to have opinions, but I'm going to say it right here on the fence about Philadelphia.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch what they do. They made some moves. They've kind of moved some guys out. One thing that's going to help their goaltending next year is they traded for Ryan Ellis out of Nashville. So there's a very cagey, very good defenseman, Ryan Ellis, who's going to come over from Nashville. Should be able to help keep the score down in some of these games for Philly, or at least help them defend better. So we'll see.
Right. Let's go with one more huge signing that we haven't talked about, and that was Alex Ovechkin going back to the Washington Capitals. You got to do that, right? There's just no way they could let him wander away to anywhere else, even if he doesn't help them win another cup.
No, I think that was a great signing. The money, whatever, at this point, he transformed that organization. The Capitals are, an organization around the team, or around the league, that has a buzz about it. And a lot of that has to do with Alexander Ovechkin. And when you come and watch this guy play live, he's not the strongest defensively that you would ever like to see, but he checks and works a lot harder than he used to back when he first came in. But he's a moose out there, and he runs around, and he's got to be very intimidating for a lot of people to play against, because he can run you through the wall or shoot the puck through you, and he's got all these attributes. So, I don't know what's going on with Washington, as far as the last couple of years have kind of been a little bit hit and miss for them. So maybe with getting this deal done and seeing if they can get Tom Wilson to just kind of round the edges,
relax a little bit.
Yeah, they could be a very interesting team to watch. They're going to be a tough team to play against in that division for sure.
What they need to do with Tom Wilson is what they tell people down here in the South to do. Simmer down now. Simmer down.
Simmer down.
Simmer down now. It's funny. I honestly think that every team from the league should have put in $500,000 and send it to the Washington Capitals, because he sells tickets in every building that he goes to. So let's put it like that. He had to be re-signed there, and I don't think he should count against the cap. That's how I think how important that's how important I think he is to the game, though. There's going to be guys that are that. Like, it would have been, it was disappointing at the end of Gretzky's career when he just started bouncing teams. I think it's more important to keep these guys in one place.
Well, these guys are generational players. I mean, right. I got you. You bounced a little bit there, but Gretz moved around a little bit at the end of his career. But let's not forget, if Gretzky never gets traded out of Edmonton to LA, I'm not sitting here talking about the Vegas Golden Knights or even maybe Arizona. And
no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying when it's St. Louis, New York, maybe someplace else, like that end part, those last two teams. Right.
It didn't really end the way Gretz maybe wanted it to, but he obviously I think any single player has had the most effect on the league. It'd be Gretzky, because now we're at 32 teams, and that's because of him getting traded to LA and the growth of hockey in the United States. It's insane, and I'm reminded of it every time I go to an arena in Vegas, which is they're putting more in. They want to put more in, and the growth of youth hockey. And I think that's a lot, it's a large part due because of Gretz. But he was generational. We were talking about Ovi. Ovechkin's generational player. Washington did the right thing. They're going to keep him there. Plus, he's got a lot in the tank. I mean, this is a guy at 6'3", plays at 230, 235. And he's like really like a bull moose out there, and he doesn't show any signs of slowing down. So you're right. He sells tickets. He's changed that organization. He's good for the league, and he's got a lot of personality, which is always fun to see what he's going to do next.
Right. It absolutely. Let's go. So let's get off of that, and let's go to the Olympics. The Summer Olympics of 2020 just happened this August 2021. I watched a little bit of it, but I watched the last basketball game, which was America versus France. And I was talking to someone, and they said, I haven't watched it since they started using professionals, right? Which I understand with basketball. But coming up, they just announced that John Cooper will be the head coach for the Canadian Olympic team. Right. I think it's different because there's so many teams that could win the gold medal. Like Russia could win, America could win, Sweden could win, Czech could win, Canada could win. And Canada's a powerhouse and a favorite, but all those teams are not far behind. And that's what's going to be exciting. And I'm glad they're using the professionals in the Olympics. You were weren't you on an Olympic team at some point? Did you not? Didn't you play for Dave King or something?
I was just talking about that last night. I actually had an opportunity to go. It was a non-Olympic year. Back then, they used to have the Olympic team play year-round. They played different things. I had an opportunity to go. It wasn't able to be worked out with the organization I was a part of at the time, so I didn't end up going. I did go to Olympic training camps in Calgary. At the Father David Bauer Arena is where I believe we were, and a great setup even back when I played. So, but I was playing pro then when the Olympic team was that back then when they had it kind of run year round. But I would agree with you. I like the fact that the NHL players are going to come and play. Now, a lot of people say, they're like, well, the basketball, the American team, and the two, the women's team and the men's team won. Okay. And they did. And Japan gave a valiant effort in the women's game, but they just couldn't stay with them. But I think what we're getting at here on the hockey side of it is the gap is being closed. And very much so. And competition in life is very rarely a bad thing. So, if you want to beat the best, you got to play the best. And I agree. You could throw any number of teams into this tournament that's going to happen in Beijing. I think we're like 6 months away from it, but you got Canada, the U.S., the Finns got to be in there somewhere. You got Sweden for sure, Russia, or the ROC. Whatever the Russian Olympic Committee, the team will go. There's a lot of really good players that.
It's the funniest. It's the funniest. The Russian Olympic team, because they were banned from the Olympics. Yeah. So they're just. I'm just all right. I guess they all get to go still. So yeah. But no, I think it's going to be great. I think it's exciting, and I think it's better that we use professionals than, even though it was a great story when 1980 when college players beat the Russians. I think it's way more exciting for the game and sells the game more when it's that high level for people to see.
Yeah, and it could be argued that when the U.S. team, which was a bunch of college kids, beat the Russians in 1980, that Russian team was basically a bunch of pros. So, and just to touch back on, how do you do it, right? How do you do it? I mean, the beach volleyball, they play on a circuit all season, and then they come in and they represent their country in the Olympics. If you look at France and the men's basketball, who was against the USA in the final, there's like 6 or 7, 8 guys on that France team that play in the NBA. So, this is the kind of thing that, they represent France, but they play in the best league in the world when they're not representing their country. Just like the NHL players, majority of the guys that are going to play in the Olympics for these teams are going to be NHL players. They're going to know each other. The biggest difference is going to be the ice is going to be, it's going to be 200 feet by 100 feet wide versus 200 feet by 85 feet, which in some cases I think benefits the European teams because they're used to growing up and playing on that. Most of the Canadian and U.S. kids grew up on 200 feet long by 85 feet wide. The Olympics is 15 feet wider. That's a ton of ice. So
it's a ton of ice. It is absolutely. I love when you're just playing open hockey and they put you on the Olympic ice and you go to make a pass and it just doesn't make it to a guy.
Or you could turn a cruise ship around behind the net. I mean, there's so much room.
Insane.
So I feel like we're missing a country here on the hockey side of it, but we gave you some good ones. Obviously, it's going to be very exciting, and I sure hope the NHL players get to go because it's a time to be able to sell your sport, sell some of the personalities in your sport. And the countries, I mean, the World Cup of Soccer is one of the most amazing events there is.
Right.
This is kind of the same. This is the World Cup. I know they have a
very
World
close.
Cup, but yeah, it's the whole deal. I mean, think about it this way. The Canadian women's soccer team winning gold for the first time ever, and that was something that had been dominated by the American girls for, I guess they didn't win in Rio, but they were, one of the better teams, always right in the mix. Canada has had their chance. They finally got a chance to close the gap and they beat Sweden in the final. So,
it's great. It's always fun, and it's always the best comment of the American girls losing to the Canadians was one of the American girls said, "You never want to lose to Canada," and that's the best comment ever.
It is. Well, at least she's honest, and that's what makes that rivalry in women's soccer what it is. Those two teams just have gone at it tooth and nail for a lot of years, and Canada got it this time, and good for them. They won the gold, which is, everyone back home up in Canada's got to be just beside themselves. That's a huge win. So
it's a huge win. Okay, so let's move into something else. So I'm going to St. Louis weekend of September 9th, 9th to the 11th. Maybe you might want to come along with me. I don't know if you're interested in this, but I'm going to play in a fantasy tournament. The St. Louis alumni is putting on a fantasy tournament, and I'm roasting Jamie Rivers.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I played against him when he was in St. Louis's farm team in Peoria, I think. Jamie Rivers was in Peoria before. So you're going to carve him up.
Yeah, I'm going to carve him up. I'm going to let him know, and I'm going to be throwing out the old enjoying orange slices with Jeff and Ian.
That's right, because all those guys, all those alumni and the current St. Louis Blues, they need to tune in.
They need to tune in so we can put them on the show, so we can get the biggest, so we can be number 5 in Australia and number 2 in St. Louis. That would help us out right there.
Yeah, we could get who'd be number 1 in St. Louis, whatever Panger does.
Panger is going to be
Panger's number 1 there, right? So we'll be number 2.
Absolutely.
Cool. Yeah,
I love Panger. We'll look over top of his head at number 1. We don't mind. Panger's the best. He's a very nice young man.
Holy jumping.
Holy jumping. The best is when he does the commercial for the extended insurance. Have you seen him?
I love that. Hey, who is the other guy? It's O'Reilly, and then there's it's Pat Maroon. Or not?
Yeah, Pat Maroon.
It's Maroon. And
it's Maroon.
Chirping. Those commercials are awesome.
Yeah, they're great. I love it. I love it. I love a little stiffness and a little fun too. It's all good. It's good. Anything else? Let's move along. We wanted to talk about the podcast 31 Thoughts. Which is now going to be called 32 Thoughts. They were the only podcast that didn't want another team coming into the league. But a guy that we grew up with, Rod Epp, his son they live in Prince George, and they played for the Prince George Spruce Kings. And he was recently diagnosed with MS and has been raising a bunch of money for MS and went on the podcast there. And we just wanted to let you guys know that episode should be listened to because it was it's crazy. Crazy what he did and crazy how he was able to put his mind to good instead of being stuck in a black hole. So yeah, check that out. 32 thoughts. Is it called 32 thoughts now? It's still 31 thoughts.
Yeah, I think this week it was 31, but well, maybe, like I said, maybe we could have scooped them and got 32 thoughts and got Elliot and Jeff all mad at us. But
we should have bought the .ca. That would have screwed them up.
That's right. Well, it's an uplifting story, and I think it's something that, and again, here's someone that played the game their whole life and was dealt a tough hand, and now he's rising above, and it's definitely 31 thoughts with and it's on sportsnet.ca. I think that's where you can grab it, or off the podcast. And once again, here we are pumping someone else's podcast, but I think
that's okay.
You got to listen to it. It's really good stuff. And the kid has his parents are locals in Terrace, like Ian and I were. So always nice to see a story like that where someone's rising above and taking on a strong challenge.
And also very interesting because he'd finished playing junior hockey, and he was off chasing becoming a referee. He wanted to referee in the NHL, which is, a story that I think needs to be told more, because there's all these auxiliary jobs that go in the NHL that people need to go into. And just because you don't get into the league doesn't mean your dreams for working for the NHL should be over. There's so much more to do. There's so many more things. And I think he's got a great story. I guess we often think that just referees are grown in a field, but they're not. They're hockey lovers as well. We have to remember that. And
we got that's another area. They need more refs all the time. And that's, there's a lot of places right now that need people to be able to come up and do jobs. You just don't show up in an NHL rink and start working those. It's minor hockey, junior hockey, college hockey on your way up. There's a lot of gates and goals for those guys, but right now the pipeline is kind of barren, and so that's something that I think the league's probably looking hard at, is trying to figure out how to get young people into the game to ref the games.
Well, remember, and people should remember that when they're beaking off to a kid that's refereeing a minor hockey game, when you complain about how the refs are shit in the NHL, well, that's because they haven't got as many choices, because you were too busy being a nerd, and not a nerd. What the hell? You were too busy being a douche, sitting in the stands yelling at a kid trying to ref an 8-year-old, and he's 10 years old. So
yeah, banging on the glass isn't gonna get us more refs.
No, it isn't gonna get us more refs. Oh my God, I think that's gonna be my next album, Banging on the Glass.
That's right. We should. Yeah, that would be good. Banging on the glass with Lord Bagg.
And then I'm just gonna take a fish and I'm gonna draw hands onto him like he's knocking on an aquarium, banging on the glass. Woo! This is awesome. I love this. This is great. Should we do shout outs? Should we get to shout outs?
Yeah, you know what?
Holy shit, we've gotten to 27 minutes already.
Okay, we gotta get out of here. Well, it's our 30th show, so let's see if we can land right on 30.
Okay.
Since we're so big in Australia, and I house to the Olympians last week, and our friends in Australia were probably like, well, what about our team? So there was a gal that raced, Katie Ledecky, who was head and shoulders above everyone else in every swim event she did in the last 3 Olympics. Her last name is Titmus, from Australia, won 2 gold medals down under. So I wanted to do a shout out to all our friends in Australia that listen, and we didn't forget about you guys. We remember that. So I dropped the ball last week. Also want to shout out to the Canadian women's soccer team for the job they did in finally getting the gold medal. That was awesome to see. Good for them. And I just think the level of soccer that they're playing and the rivalry with the States and the other countries around the world, but specifically the U.S., is growing leaps and bounds because of this. And I think it's top shelf. I'm sure I got another shout out, but I'll give it to you, Mr. Bagg.
So for me, I want to give a shout out to Ethan Bear, who took a kid out and just bought him equipment head to toe. I think that's got to happen every once in a while. That's how you get kids to love the game. Like that kid will love the game and support the game and be pro hockey for the rest of his life, no matter where he goes. Just take a kid out every once in a while, and it's the same thing. Drop off a cake to the fire department or something like that, or buy a cup of coffee. That's how you win people over. You do something nice that doesn't cost. It was a drop in the bucket for him, and he didn't need to do it, and he did it. And big good luck in North Carolina there, Ethan Bear. I think you should still be in Edmonton, but good for you, good Canadian boy, just getting out there buying the kids equipment.
Well, and one thing to remember too is like this brings up a point is if you got some old hockey gear or skates or whatever you're sitting around the house, you can take it down and donate it to the local rink. And there's people showing up all the time that don't have this or don't have that, and what he did is help this kid head to toe. But if you got an old pair of gloves or a stick or a helmet you're not using anymore, you just take it down to your local rink. They'll find someone that can use it, and someone will appreciate it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Take them, go to your local rink, give something that you don't need away. Do that, pair of gloves, skates, whatever. Somebody will love it. Jeff, we're at 30 minutes. This is the 30th episode. Love tall.
Love tall. Well, that wraps up another week of Enjoying Orange Slices with Jeff and Ian. Had a lot of fun again this week. We were able to get show 30 to 30 minutes, even though we wanted to do 25. I remember I went somewhere last week. I was going to tell you during the show, and for some reason I forgot. So it was in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Wonderful people, wonderful place to go if you ever get a chance. Not a lot of hockey down there, but great people. Have a great week. Love tall.